I love it. It says in verse 8 that the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, to go tell the disciples. I mean, what was going through their mind? It's like they're remembering all the things Jesus said, and now an angel just told them, yep, he got up just like he told you he was going to. He had said, yeah, all these things are going to happen, but on the third day I'm gonna rise. And they're now going back, and it says in verse 9, suddenly Jesus met them. And he said, greetings. What was that like? I mean, get out of town, everybody. I mean, here they're running away. What's going on? What's going on? Jesus, hi. It's like, whoa. Look at their reaction. It says they came to him, clasped his feet, and worshiped him. And Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Why do you have to tell them do not be afraid? Because they were scared out of their mind. I mean, Jesus is so powerful. Do you see that? He tells them, go get the disciples and bring them back to me. The disciples gather around, and he gathers them. He says, okay, I want to tell you something. You got to get this down. All right, ready for this? All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. I am the most powerful being in the whole universe. You got that down, disciples? Okay, here's what I want you to do. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. Jesus says, and surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. Maybe a new picture of Jesus for some of us. Here's what I want to say to you. I thought a lot, okay, how do you wrap this up? I mean, what do you say now? What I don't want to say to you is, happy Easter, come back next week. I think I better say something like this. You better obey everything Jesus commanded. And maybe I'll just put up here on the screen one more time this quote we started with, this quote from Jesus, which, by the way, okay, this is from the book of Revelation. John, who was one of his disciples, at some point gets this vision of Jesus who comes to him. He'd seen Christianity spread. He'd seen the power of Jesus in so many different ways as one church after the next began, and he's now in exile because he's been a Christian. He's being persecuted because he's a Christian. All of a sudden, Jesus shows up, and the description he gives, he says his eyes were like blazing fire, and his tongue was like a big, sharp sword. And it says in the Bible that he fell down as though dead. Right? Power. Here are Jesus' words. Don't be afraid. I'm the first and the last. I'm the living one. I was dead, and behold, I'm alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Right? I mean, this is a Jesus of power. And I just have to say to everyone here, I mean, you got to understand this. There's this old preacher who used to be on the radio. His name is J. Vernon McGee. He used to have this program called Through the Bible. I don't know if he was an older guy. I doubt he could beat me up. He used to have these programs, and there's this famous quote from him. He said something like this. He used to talk kind of in a high voice. He said, this world is God's world. This universe is God's universe. And he'll have things his way. There's some of us who think we have a better way, but you don't have a universe. Man, I think that is just right. And maybe there's some of you here today, you've been going a different way, and maybe even as I say these things, they're not my words. I wanted to take you just through the Bible. This is who Jesus is. And maybe there's some of you who say, whoa, I should maybe follow him. You should. You should stop living your own way. You should turn your life to him. These things are going to happen. And you got to know that. But I'm not going through the Bible and telling you these things so you should be afraid. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, the last thing you should feel is fear right now. I don't feel any. You want to know why? Because I'm on his team. I'm on his team. Do you get that? What's going to happen to me? He's on my side. Do you see? I mean, isn't that awesome? It's great. Sometimes in life, right, there are things we're scared of, things we're concerned about. When some things are happening and we're worried, like, what if this happens? What if... Jesus is on your side. He's the most powerful being in the universe. All authority in heaven and earth has been given to him. I'm telling you what, there is nothing that can happen to you if you belong to Jesus Christ. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody kill you? Ooh, don't worry about that. Jesus will just raise you back up to life. I mean, what's the worst that can happen to us? There's nothing that can separate us from his love. If we belong to him, if we're on his side, all of his power is ours. And he is going to come through for us. And that's why today, on Easter Sunday morning, Christians gather around the world to do one thing, to celebrate. And you know what? That's what we're going to do too. In just a minute, the choir is going to come back up here. We're going to sing together. When we sing this next song, I want you to just think about who we're singing to and what these words mean. And if you're a follower of Jesus, just sing at the top of your lungs from the bottom of your heart as we celebrate and worship, because our Jesus is so powerful and he's victorious. If we belong to him, there is nothing that can happen.